Hello there everyone and welcome to another episode of Feel Good with Me. And today I've got Dara here with us and we're going to talk about how we got into a Buteyko breathing method, which is a breathing method that teaches one how to breathe through the nose and the benefits of that and how it affects the body on various different levels. I can tell you that I've personally been practicing that breathing method for at least 10 years. It makes sense to me. Babies breathe through the nose, as they explain in Buteyko, and I'm sure many people who had or have babies know that if the nose is blocked, it's trouble. When we look at other mammals, dog as well, they breathe through the nose only when they have to cool down. They do it through their mouth. We don't do that. We sweat and have not so much hair, so we can cool down differently. But other than that, they breathe through the nose. So Dara, tell us a little bit about who you are, how did you get to it, and I guess later, how to get started in this breathing method.
Eden, thank you very much for this. Excellent. Your summary there is absolutely perfect. My journey into Buteyko method and breathing in general started back in 2008, 2009, when a girlfriend of mine was diagnosed. She had a pituitary gland brain tumor. And the best method from asking around, talking to doctors, was that there was nothing really to be done except to keep stress levels down. You wanted to keep the prolactin levels down. So we got into meditation. And then I was in a car crash. Actually, both my parents passed away, and I was involved in a car crash. And thereafter that, it got to a point where I really started to feel the benefits in breathing. And at the time I couldn't really find any certifications. There seemed to be just I was in New York City, and that's where I'd been based. I'd been actually living as an actor for nearly over 20 years. And I started, on the internet, looking at YouTube and studying different types, from transcendental meditation to holotropic breath work to pranayama. And then finally, I found Patrick McEwen of the Buteyko International Clinic in Ireland. That's where we are.
Amazing, amazing. You had some journey there for sure, and it's always inspiring to hear how people and how we get into different health practices by trying to help ourselves, if it's on a physical or mental level.
Exactly.
So so tell us a bit um about the Buteyko method. How is it different?
Well,
Is it similar to other things?
it was founded by Dr. Konstantin Buteyko, a Ukrainian doctor. And to me, my understanding is that he took Eastern practices, yogic practices, and added Western science. So to me, it's very sort of simple in as far as all these exercises are, you can find them on the internet, on YouTube. The simple route, I think, is actually the accountability in doing the practice. For some, it's daily. For others, it's weekly. And it's broken down into sort of 5 different exercises. Primarily, the focus, it's not we're not doctors. A lot of breathing instructors are certainly, not in the medical field. But what it can do is help. And that word trauma or PTSD or sleep apnea or asthma or panic and anxiety, these are things which are very, I think, relevant in today's world, in our modern society. And by slowing down the breath, we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. and we can be more conscious with our automatic nervous system as opposed to living in the flight or fight. And by slowing down our breath, we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. By slowing down the breath, there's a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which is released by the vagus nerve, and that brings down the heart rate. And I think, obviously, the parasympathetic nervous system is for, rest, known as rest and digest. It gives us such an opportunity to just slow down and deal with the natural, process of chaos of things that happen in life. And for me, from my own experience, especially as an actor, it provided such an opportunity to be more relaxed. And I think from being in a more relaxed, centered position, one can be aware of the life that is happening. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. Yeah, it does make us feel more relaxed, more in the moment, more present. And
yeah,
when it comes to anxiety, of course, it's a great tool, but also for people with ME, fibromyalgia, who experience pain.
And the car crash. Yeah, absolutely. The car crash for me unleashed. I went for an MRI and found out that I had osteoarthritis, and there was some nerve damage and disc herniation in my back. And there was nothing really that my choices were physical therapy or an operation or steroids. So I chose physical therapy, and then through the practice of breath training, I think there's many terms: breath work, breath training, but I'm drawn towards breath training because it allows a sort of a portal into mindfulness and meditation. It's an actual tools that people can hold on to. And for me, after the car crash, it was certainly something I found very beneficial towards my moods. I was very sort of quick to I would find myself becoming way more impatient, than normal. And the Buteyko method it's primarily, as you rightly said, it's all about nasal breathing. And if we breathe through our nose, there's a natural filtration with the hairs in our nose. It's a better volume, a better absorption. And also there's a gas called nitric oxide, which is apparently antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral. So in today's, post-COVID world, these are things I think that are worthy of attention.
Totally. Yeah, I'm 100% convinced of this breathing method. It's I've experienced the benefits on there, and yeah, it makes sense that it filters, and it's the way nature made us to be. And maybe we learn to speak, and then it's a bit impacted it or something like that.
There's a line I heard, I think, I forget who said it, but the most perfect breather is the one that you never hear breathing at all, when the breath is quiet. And if you think of hunter-gatherer society, it wouldn't make sense to be out in the wild if one is breathing loud. You are not going to be, you're probably going to get eaten, So, they say that somewhere between 25, 30, or even 50% of society are upper chest mouth breathers. And naturally, if you breathe through your mouth, it dries out. You dry out your lungs. It's supposed to be better for your dental care to keep the mouth closed, the tongue at the top of the mouth. And I believe there's an essay written by George Catlin, where he was a lawyer and he went to study the Native Americans. And apparently they would, when their babies were sleeping, they would go around and just pinch, just very gently, the lips closed in order to keep the mouths closed. And if you look at the Native Americans, the portraits, they're beautiful, beautiful faces, lips sealed. So, Yeah, I think the world is it's getting very exciting because, whether it's, Wim Hof, Buteyko, pranayama, holotropic, transcendental, somatic, there is just a greater awareness. And that really, to me, is where Buteyko is best. It's not a cure-all situation. It brings people's awareness to their breath. It gives them the opportunity to take more control in balancing themselves. And a lot of times, I really do believe in people that the answers to our various questions and traumas and dramas and sometimes psychological nonsense, the answers are within, and you can tap into that absolutely through your breath.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I guess in meditation as well and hypnotherapy, breath is a big thing.
Absolute 100%.
So it's interesting.
Do you practice? No, go ahead. After you.
I do some self hypnosis. I studied hypnotherapy with Dr. John Butler, so I practice some of that. Yeah, meditation is an interesting thing for me. Maybe.
Do you find that through your meditation that I love David Lynch when he talks about transcendental meditation, and he said, you just keep diving within, and all these ideas keep pouring out. And he's right. He's spot on. I used to just think he was a wonderful, eccentric, brilliant, director, but he's spot on. I find that once you start to get more in touch with balancing, your automatic nervous system, you make, if the brain and the heart is where it should be, you automatically start to think in a better way. And thus that, term, you tap into your own intelligence. You start to make better choices. Your days are better. Your life becomes better. Without any glitter or sparkles, you keep things very simple. And I think in this day and age, the word reduction and refinement really can, be of help to a lot of people. And that's to me, as an older Irishman, I believe in the inclusion, of everybody. And yeah, it's an exciting time.
It is. And tell me, when you say when the heart and brain, the mind is in the right place, what do you mean by that? For someone new to...
I keep thinking of a light switch. It is neither on or off. It is just ready. There is an accuracy. I believe that there was a study done with sharpshooters. Not that I'm a fan of suggesting anybody go out and practice rifle shooting, but the point of the most accurate time for when one would shoot, release the trigger, is towards the end of the exhale. And I think, to me anyway, that it's when we're trying to think on a subject or work out a problem, that by going into the breath, by slowing yourself down, the likelihood is that you yourself, it's good. What it's very wonderful is that it's got nothing to do with me. It's got to do with I've worked with actors, musicians, the New York City police, and many times people just, I remember a businessman telling me about his golf, that he was finding was more accurate, and his swing, and his drive was so much better. So it's just, it's not something that is new as such. It's, the breath was before yoga. But for people who are starting to get into this, I think you find a place to practice, a teacher. The beauty about the digital world is no matter where you are in the world, you can do these things on Zoom or WhatsApp, and you don't have to leave the office or the kitchen. There's no. Some people are perhaps a little shy to go down to the yoga studio or get in front of, find themselves, with a bunch of people. So you can do it at one-on-one, or you can do it in groups, and you can do it online. And it's, the process is quite quick to bring about change. It can happen in a few days or a few weeks, and then it's just habit. The more that you practice, the deeper it gets, and it's just, as David Lynch would say, more ideas just keep coming. So it's another thing in Buteyko which is a little different from the rest of the breath practices, is that in sleep, many of us we do the it's kind of a little bit controversial, is the taping of the mouth at night. Many of us, from eating soft food, from sleeping on our back, from getting older, the mouth becomes open during the night, snoring, and many people wake up with a dry mouth. For me, from my own experience, I thought I was just a light sleeper, that I didn't really snore, but I am someone who sometimes will sleep on my back. I'm trying to train myself more to sleep on the left side. But taping the mouth was something that I found in less than 2 or 3 days to be absolutely a bit of a miracle. Just focus, and the focus and attention is something that is really apparent when one goes into this sort of practice. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, no, and you mentioned it before. When we sleep with the mouth closed, you don't get that dry throat as you mentioned in the morning. It's such a big difference. Wow, really, really big difference. And if you, another thing I like, you mentioned how the nose can possibly filter bacteria and viruses and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. If you live where you use air conditioning or radiators regularly, you would notice the difference. So these are also areas where I notice a big difference. I don't really get colds or snuzzles, whatever you call it, snizzle. It really, really helps.
Yeah, you got it. As a kid, I used to get loads of flu and cold as well, and I wasn't the healthiest baby at all. But in recent years, it's touch wood, as they say. Life has been good, and you're spot on. To go back to the idea of when you start this process, what I like is the natural voice within the individual comes about, and you start to make decisions. You start to suddenly become aware of the temperature in your room. You sort of eke out um, more sort of intelligent information. That the wonderful thing of our digital age is, we have this tool, this iPhone, our computer, to jump on and suddenly research what's the best possible way to sleep, what is the best possible diet, how should I be living my day, how much sunlight do I need. And for me, the holistic kind of approach is vital, to just try to bring attention to that. I'm not a nutritionist. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. But I do understand, for me at least, there's been huge benefit in say taking, the hot shower before I go to bed, trying to get 7, 8 hours sleep. Sleep is gold. It's imperative. And taking a hot shower at night, going into a cool bedroom, a dark bedroom, no computers, no blue screens, quiet time, doing a few very simple, slow breathing exercises all through the nose, bringing down the heart rate. It's it, it is such a, a, it's hard to find the word to put on, it's like the curtain goes back and life becomes so much more vivid, I think, in these practices. And I'm a big fan of the cold water therapy. You wake up, you can start with a hot shower. You can bring that down to cold. You don't have to shock yourself. That can be, not such a good idea. And the benefits are for me, I've, as I said, osteoarthritis and I have disc issues and spine issues, and from an inflammation point of view, it's cold water and also mood. If you're not feeling the best, if you jump into that shower, if you're lucky enough to live by the sea or a river, do that too. And it doesn't have to be for so long. I think there's benefits after 20 seconds, from what I've heard, in getting into cold water therapy. Obviously, if you have a sauna at home as well, not everybody has that, but having a hot shower at night I think the word is thermoregulation. So yeah, it's gathering together a toolbox, and that for me, in my own practice of breath training and also pranayama, I have found just that more ideas have come than ever in any other time in my life, and you start to keep a journal and you start to write these things down, and rhythm and pattern, just like the seasons, just like the day, the sun rises. It's there's a cellular response when we get out in the morning, and you try and get 15, 20 minutes, sunlight, no matter if it's cloudy, particularly if you're in a place like Ireland, where it can be a bit grey sometimes. So, yeah, toolbox, for the human being, of just self-care, self-love, and not to overuse that word, wellness, is amazing. The sort of you can start to live a life that you never really imagined. You feel so much more free to make your own choice, and that's very exciting to me. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dara.
Sure.
So this is quite a short episode, just to introduce you a bit to Buteyko breathing method, and to share with you both my experience and Dara as a trainer. And if you'd like to get in touch with him, I will leave in the description below his details. So Dara, you want to wrap it up? Anything to add? You said quite the toolbox. I really like that. But if there's anything you'd like to add before we go, by all means. Otherwise, I'll just leave everyone with this knowledge.
For anybody who's really, thinking about meditation, it's absolutely real. It can do, nobody knows still the full power of the respiratory system and what it can do for us. But if you have a little voice inside you that's saying, it might be a good idea to explore this, it can really buffer and the challenges that you can meet in life. And Eden, thank you so much. It's really, really, really cool to have this discussion with you, man.
You're welcome, and thank you again for sharing with us. So take care, everyone.
Beautiful.